us at our latest La Diferencia virtual tasting about sustainable choices. Really good to kick off the first one in 2024. Again, I'm delighted to be joined by Amanda, who's going to host this for us and ask the questions and compare. And we have three great winemakers with us today as well. Three of my personal favorites from our range, from our portfolio. We have Thibault from Bodega, Piedra, Negra and Hacienda Arroyo in Chile. We've got Benoit Fitte from Vina Requingua, also in Chile, and Karim Mussi from Karim Mussi Wines, who produces our wines from Altocedro and Bodega Alandes. So thanks very much, all three of you, for joining us, and to Amanda, of course, for hosting as well. Hopefully you've all got your samples, you've got your wines ready, you've got your pouch samples. Brilliant. Without further ado, I will hand over to Amanda and let's kick things off. And again, thanks very much for bearing with me while we figured the technology out. Over to you, Amanda.
Super. Well, thank you very much, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm joining from Mendoza, where it's a lovely, sunny, warm day. I know that it's much cooler in the UK, so please bear. I apologise for the sunny weather that I'm flaunting in the background. Today we're going to be focusing on these three great wineries in Chile and Argentina, and really kind of looking at their wines through the lens of sustainability. So we're going to be, as we taste, learning a bit about what they're doing in the vineyard and the winery and in the community in an effort to be more sustainable, which clearly I think is, a really important topic in the wine industry and the world at large. And so I'm excited that we'll be able to talk about the issues that we're facing here in Argentina and Chile and how our winemakers are working towards them. The pouches that you have, Aaron has told me, are all completely recyclable. So please do recycle when you finish tasting them. I'm going to be tasting here with bottles, and we're going to be starting with Thibault. So we're starting with Bodega Lurton in the Yuco Valley. And actually, I think this is a really great place to start because Lurton was a real pioneer in the Yuco Valley for complete organic certification. So Thibault, maybe you can start us off and really give us the inside skinny. What does organic actually mean in practical terms? And why was it that Francois really wanted to become fully certified early on? Thibault, I can't hear you. Oh.
Good, okay. So we started the certification 15 years ago now. And we are fully certificated since 10 years. I mean, in Mendoza, the first time at the first site, I would say it seems quite easy to make organic wine because you have very few diseases. It's a very dry climate, so the canopy is quite easy to manage to cope with the disease. But we had two very important issues to solve in order to make the whole estate organic. That was the management of the weeds on the soil, because you have some very rocky, poor soils where it's very hard to remove the weeds with tools. And the second issue was the ants. So that the two things that did not help us to switch to organic, and we had to work a lot on it in order to be fully organic. And I think that the reason why there are so few 100% organic estates in Argentina so far, because regarding the disease like mildew, oidium, botrytis, it's very easy to solve them with a very few products.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, today I believe we have 80 certified organic wineries in Argentina. It's definitely something which has been growing, but considering the relative ease that we have for viticulture here with the dry conditions, it is quite disappointing that not more people are kind of working towards organic. How have you combated the ant problem? Because this is a significant issue in Mendoza. What is it that you've managed to do using organic products in order to stop them munching away at vines? Because they can be devastating. They can literally wipe out significant numbers of vines overnight. So can you tell us a bit about that ant problem and what you do?
We started we tried a lot of things, starting with we are looking for the nests, and then we put some diatomy earth. After we tried with some copper, which is not very good to put a lot of copper on the soil, with some sulphur. We even tried with steam. We put some mechanical defense in order to protect the vines from the ants. And we almost sacrificed one plot of 2 hectares, trying all the stuff. This plot is almost died now, it's almost dead. It all produces 50% of what it used to produce. But using this plot as an experiment, we could find a few solutions. No one of them works perfectly. No one of them is very 100% working. We're still losing, I think the estimation would be 10 to 15% of the crop every year. But we have 3 people looking for the nests all year long. And we tried some mushroom complex, which has been invented by Argentina, but it was very expensive and not that efficient. But I think the INTA is an institute that is developing all the new products in agro industry. They told that in the next few years, we're going to have a better product of fungus that will be a competitor to the fungus that the ant eats. Because the ants, what they actually do, they take the leaves from the plants, they bring it to the nests, they cultivate fungus on these leaves, and then they hit the fungus. So what we have to find is to avoid the development of this fungus that feed the ants.
Gosh, fascinating. Thank you, Richard, for your question. And please, everyone, do get involved in the Q&A box with questions. This is, supposed to be a conversation. Richard asks, are there no natural predators for ants? Do we have any anteaters or any natural predators?
No. There is a lot of, in France, for example, a lot of study about the auxiliaire ants or insect that can help you to control some disease. But for the ants, it's an issue that only exists in South America. We have a big issue in Argentina and Brazil. I know they have it too, but in Chile, we don't have it, for example. And in Europe, it's a completely problem that doesn't. So there is very few studies and very few products. And so far, I don't know an efficient predator for the ants.
Well, fascinating, and obviously a lot of hard work to get that organic certification. So well done and bravo for that initiative. Let's taste your wine, which is one of my favorites, alternative whites in Argentina. Tell us a bit about Jackot. I actually have the slightly different label here, the one that we have in Argentina. So it's in case anyone's wondering, it's different to the label you get in the UK, but it's the same wine. Tell us about Friulano, otherwise known as Sauvignon Verde, Sauvignes. Tell us about this grape variety and how it expresses itself in the glass.
The Chacayes Friulano is a grape that François started to make wine with it more than 15 years ago when he did his first great wine, which was a Grande white. But it's still a wine that we are doing every year, but it has 60 to 70% of oak, some old, some new. And in 2016, we decided to use this grape by itself without any oak aging, to show the grape without 100% Chacayes Friulano and with no oak at all. Chacayes Friulano is a grape that comes from northern Italy. And we have a lot of Chacayes Friulano in Argentina, but a few wineries are making only 100% Chacay. They usually blend it with other grapes. Sometimes they blend it with Sauvignon Blanc because it's the same family. It's called Green Sauvignon or Sauvignonas. And that's why we had a problem with the name. The name of Chacayes Friulano is Chacay, which is prohibited by the Hungary, and Friulano, which is defended by the Italians. So Sauvignonas is not a very fancy name, Sauvignon Vert neither. So the solution that we found is to put Chacay backward and call it Jackot. And in this 2022 that you have, we did 60% of skin contact during the winemaking. We are always putting a little bit of skin contact in most of our white wine in different percentage. And we thought that with the Jackot, with the Chacay, it was a good idea to use this process because the Chacay is a grape which is in between Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. It has more body than the Sauvignon Blanc, but it's more fruity, more expressive than the Chardonnay. So using the skins during the fermentation, we could give more body to the wine and enhance the green herbal expression of the Chacay. But it's not an orange wine. It's not a very strong skin contact wine because we do the maceration with the skins only 2 to 3 weeks. We just finish the fermentation and separate the must from the pomace.
That's delicious. I love the fact that it's got that nice structure to it. it has a good kind of persistence, a little bit of grip to it, a nice kind of creaminess in the palate as well. I think it's a really beautiful wine, and I think you're putting it somewhere between Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc is a really great description for where this variety lies. Tell me a bit about the combination of different vessels, because you use concrete barrels and stainless steel. What are you looking from each of these vessels to give to the wine?
For this one, we only use concrete eggs and clever. It's a ceramic which is cooked at 1,300 degrees, so it's a very closed ceramic. It's very good for wine aging, for white wine aging and vinificating, because we can do the same rolling process, bâtonnage. We can do a kind of bâtonnage, rolling the clever without incorporation of oxygen. So the wine still remains very fresh and fruity and young wine, I would say, but it has the body of a barrel-aged wine. For this one, we don't use any barrel. It's only concrete eggs for fermentation with the skins. Part of the blend is aged in concrete eggs, and the other part in amphoras clever. Perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, we're going to come back to you, Thibault, right at the end with our final wine. So now we'll hop over the Andes and we'll go to Chile. And here with Benoit, we've got two of your wines to taste. So please, everyone, do get started on tasting the Chardonnay. And meanwhile, Benoit, I really wanted to ask you, because you're beginning to do quite a big project in sustainability. You're working towards your first sustainability report. What does that entail? So what is it that you're going to be measuring, working towards? What is the work that goes into a sustainability report?
Well, for us, it's a very important project because, of course, sustainability in our organization is a very important issue, or not issue, sorry, but it's a very important in our company. So right now, of course, we're working the first formal sustainability report. That means we're defining some topics to report, and of course to share this report with our clients. The idea is to have direct access from all of our clients to this report during the second semester of 2024. In the same time, we are preparing our second measurement of our carbon footprint. The first one was with the 2019 data. So now we will do that with the 2023 data. So that will be very interesting to evaluate the actions that we taken during the last period. I mean, 4 years. For example, about the vineyard, now we have 95% of our vineyard with technical irrigation, so that drop irrigation controlled only. 85% of our agrochemicals are coming from very low impact on the environment chemicals, so that's very important too. We change the refrigerant gases to organic gases from our old cold equipment in the winery, so that will reduce the greenhouse gases. And in the same time, we put a software to indicate all the electrical consumption in the company. So we'll be able to evaluate during 2024 what we did, or what are the results comparing with the previous years. And the last, I think the last topic is we are planting a lot of native trees now in the hills area, and of course the piece of land with viticulture, and we do that for the last almost 3 years now.
Excellent. And those native trees, why are you planting them?
Native trees, so that's Bordeaux. The majority are Bordeaux, and some other I don't remember the name. Sorry, I'm not native from Chile, but mostly Bordeaux.
Bordeaux's delicious. Yes. If anyone hasn't tried Bordeaux before, it's a beautiful tree, a Chilean tree, which gives you quite a a lovely, refreshing tea. It's kind of like a bay leaf style
The
tea.
leaf, the leaf tea is very nice from Bordeaux, but the best is the fruit. When the fruit's gonna be ripe from Bordeaux, it's really nice. It's like a mint, yes, like sweety mint. It's really nice.
Delicious. Apart from the delicious fruit, what's the purpose of planting the trees? What do you want to do? What do you want the impact to be?
Of course, we want to first of all, we want to have more green area in our lands. That's of course to avoid the how do you say, when to keep the soils in our hills, the erosion. I don't know the name in English.
Erosion, yeah, to avoid soil erosion.
Of course, to avoid the erosion or to limit the erosion, and of course to keep the soil alive. I mean, with roots and of course with microorganisms in the soil.
Super. We're gonna touch a little bit on that at the end with Thibault as well. So please, everyone can bear in mind the discussion of trees. We'll circle back. Let's taste your first wine. So here we have your Chardonnay from Curicó. Curicó is a large, massive region, in fact. But you work very hard to try and look for those slightly cooler climates within Curicó. Can you tell me a bit about the search to make your Chardonnay and how you found the right terroirs within Curicó to make Chardonnay?
Okay, of course, Curicó is in the Central Depression area. When we talk about Chile, we talk about the Andes Mountain, Central Depression, Coastal Mountain, and coast. So we have two cool area, two climate area, the Andes side and the coastal side. In Curicó, we are in the warm area, but what we do in the majority of the Chardonnay is coming from pergola, from high trellis system. So first of all, the grapes are below the roof of the leaves of the vineyard. So that's very important because when we harvest, early, it's very easy to keep the freshness of the Chardonnay. It's what we are looking for in that case. There are vineyards between 10 and 20 years old. The soils are alluvials, so all rivers. The subsoils, a lot of rocks and a sandy base, so very, very filtrant soils. What's interesting in the same time, of course, we harvest everything by hand and early, so we keep the high content natural acidity, and that bring, and in the same time, in the term of flavors, we have a ripe flavor. So that's a good mix because we have a ripe Chardonnay with a lot of we can feel in this glass a lot of tropical fruit. Yes, that's tropical fruit, like some banana flavors. And of course, we have a good freshness when we try it.
Absolutely. I think this is very nicely balanced, Benoit. I think it's got good freshness, but as you said, it's got some of those tropical, I find a lot of stone fruits in there as well. A lot of that kind of more, peach notes coming through. It's lovely. It's very, really nice, refreshing, balanced Chardonnay. And I think touching on this kind of return to the appreciation of pergola, I think is something that in the face of climate change here, we're actually beginning to see winemakers, both in Chile and Argentina, looking to these pergola structures, which is, where you grow on a pergola. I'm sure everyone's aware of the term. And, those grapes are nicely protected from that direct sunshine, retaining the freshness. So super interesting. And then your second wine is also looking at a very different kind of training method and old vines here. So tell us a bit about your Carignan, because this comes from majority they're all old vines over the age of 40, as far as I believe. Why are old vines important for sustainability?
Well, the Carignan first, this Mediterranean variety, And this variety arrives at the end of the 30s in Chile by French people, French growers from the south of France. They were making an interchange with Chilean growers. They were, in that time, Chilean growers was looking for a variety resistant of the dryness. And of course, those producers, those growers were coming from Maule, from the Secano Costero of Maule. And why it's so important, old vines, because of course, the roots of the vines are really deep. You don't need to irrigate. So, for example, in this vineyard is located in Melosal. So this is in the middle of the Secano Costero of Maule. So that's 300 kilometers south of Santiago, but to the coast. And of course, you are not irrigating. So that's to produce a dry farm grapes. Of course, it's more sustainable than irrigating by far. So that's the key point of this wine. But in terms of wine, this is coming from one of our best or most famous brand called Toro de Piedra. And this Carignan is a Grand Reserve level. So that means first we have a barrel aging. In that case, it's 1 year in French oak, only old barrels, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. But that's interesting. What is interesting with this wine and the variety, this variety keep the natural acidity. It's really easy to keep the freshness in Carignan. So I suppose it's because of that you begin with this wine, with this red wine. So we feel immediately the intense notes of raspberry, strawberry, but real fresh red fruit, some floral notes. Cedar, because of course that's coming from the French oak, the French barrel. And mouth immediately, the freshness, longitude immediately. The wine enters the mouth and arrive immediately in the end of the mouth. Juicy, a lot of red fruit flavor in the end of mouth. Tasty, juicy. Well, personally, I love this wine. Sorry, it's
me
one
too.
of my favorites of our portfolio in the Grand Reserve level. And that's it. I don't know if
I think, yeah, if anyone has any questions, because Benoit's going to have to run off. Everyone's in the middle of harvest and kindly giving us their time. So he's going to have to leave before the end of the session. So if you have any questions for him, please do drop it in the Q&A. I absolutely think that Carignan is, one of the real stars of Chile, and the dry farmed Carignan from Maule is excellent. This is a great example of it. That bright, brilliant acidity, the juicy fruit, as you said. It's just such a special wine. We have a question here from Rachel, who says that it's delicious. And she would also like to know what the ABV is on this vintage. On my bottle, it says 14. Is that correct? 14% alcohol? Would it be 4?
Yes, it's 14.
Okay, perfect. But I think that, that acidity is really nicely balanced.
Look, exactly 13.8. But of course, we have accumulation immediately of sugar. We try to pick the grape at fresh fruit maturity, just at the beginning of the optimum maturity. But of course, at this time, even at this time, we have a high alcohol content problem.
Excellent, fabulous. We also have a nice comment there from Holly saying it's very delicious. And yeah, Rachel was saying that it felt like it was 13.5. I think because you've got that acidity, it really keeps it lovely and bright and fresh. So then I will we'll let you go get out to the vineyards and we will move back to Mendoza. Wait, well, before you leave, don't leave yet. One more question from Raj. Is Carignan a difficult grape variety to grow?
That's true, because it's
a very
vigorous variety. So it's very important, even in dry farming. In dry farming, even you need to make a green harvest. I mean, at the middle of the veraison, you need to remove some bunches to have a balance, to have the concentration, enough concentration for the final. So it's what we do. And at the same time, it's very sensitive of the oidium. So at the beginning, you need to be really careful around the flowering, the blooming. Sorry. So you need to take care of your vineyard there. Of course, we use only sulphur there to protect the vine against the oidium with fungus. But that's really key for this variety. To take care of the oidium and of course to regulate the production, to have enough concentration, to have to a great wine like this Carignan.
Super. And then Rachel asked, what is the actual vine age? How old are these vines?
Like me, 47. we born the same year, not the same day.
Excellent. Well, it's showing really nicely. Thank you very much. Okay, well, if we have no more questions for you, we will move back over to Mendoza and to Karim. So Karim is joining us from where are you? You're in the winery in Maipo?
Yes, I'm in Alandes in Maipú.
Excellent. But we're gonna jump straight to La Consulta and tasting your wines, both from La Consulta, I believe. And we're going to start with your Poetas blend. So if everyone would like to fill their glass with the La Libertad blend. And I wanted to ask you, Karim, you've on all of your wines, I believe, are now certified vegan. Can you tell me what it means to be vegan? I think many people are kind of shocked when they see vegan certification because just grapes. So we all think it's vegan anyway. What is the difference between a vegan and a non-vegan wine, and why did you think it was important to certify as vegan?
Well, it's part of our. First of all, thank you for having us here with Thibault and Benoit. So I want to thank you. You've been hosting us and joining with the rest of the people that connecting and tasting together is a great opportunity. And just to give a more comprehensive understanding of all of our sustainability practices, there is some of them that can be officially certified and some are still not. So we decided to be the most holistic, to have the most holistic understanding about how we manage all our sustainable practices and sustainable policies inside and outside the winery. So since then, we choose some of the few that are available here in Argentina, and having a low intervention winemaking since the very beginning, it was very easy to be vegan certified, because we don't use basically the two most important things that can make a wine vegan or not vegan is the egg white to clarify the wines, or the I don't know how
casein,
to translate
the milk. Casein, is it the milk?
Casein, yes. It's the animal protein from blood animals. So not using any casein or egg white. The wines are 100% vegan.
Excellent. So it's mainly when we talk about non-vegan wines, it's mainly those fining and filtering techniques. So what are you using as a vegan product to fine your wines? Are you using pea proteins, or are you using something else for fining?
No, just the cold of La Consulta or the Uco Valley is so cold.
Natural settling then, perfect.
We won't suffer the winters or the snow, even worse. It's even more high elevated, so it's naturally cold stabilized. So it's especially for reds, we never need any other product to clarify.
Perfect, super. And then the other thing that you've been working on recently is that you now have your sustainable certification from Bodegas de Argentina. So this is the new Argentine certification for sustainable practices. Can you tell me a bit about, what went into that, what you've been doing in the winery and the vineyard in order to really ensure you're doing your best to be sustainable and certified in that sense?
Well, that certification, I think it has a double benefit because it's an official local organization that we agree with their policies and put us, all the local Argentine wineries, under the same level. You can be more or less sustainable, but at least you have a minimum certification that guarantees a minimum of practices. So the good thing from Bodegas de Argentina, that is one of the two, you have it here on the back label, but then all the big things that we use to promote the sustainable practices is local and also official. So I think it's very interesting, and it's a good tool for our customers and consumers to have this local official certification.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you, Karim. Let's move on to the wines, because this is absolutely delicious. I love this blend. And so does Rachel. She says there's loads of cassis showing in this blend. And she wants to know, well, I want to know as well, what's in this blend? What are we tasting, Karim?
Well, for this Los Poetas concept that started as a separate project for to develop wines that are mostly an oak and are blends from Uco Valley. Here we sold fruit not only from La Consulta, we also have Malbec from outside the La Consulta appellation, but it's mostly a classic Bordeaux blend of mostly Malbec, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Merlot.
Excellent, perfect. And I want to ask you about the terroir kind of expression of blends, because you're a big fan yourself of blends. And I think sometimes we get into the trap of thinking that the new world only does single varieties, and that to show place you have to do a single variety. How do you think a blend can actually reflect its terroir, and what grapes do you pick to go in there to really show the expression of La Consulta?
Well, the Uco Valley in general, being a cool climate area and high elevated, we have a completely different expression for these three very well-known varietals. So, especially for my French colleagues, that they know both sides of the Atlantic, how the Merlot, the Malbec, and Cabernet Sauvignon behaves under these cool climate conditions that allows the wines to express differently, to have a beautiful, bright acidity. So when you put it together, it developed the classic Bordeaux blend, but with a beautiful drinkability and a very nice, refreshing acidity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is showing that it really does show that kind of cooler climate that you get in La Consulta. You've got brilliant fresh fruits there and lovely brightness, really juicy, yummy wine to be tasting. As we serve the Añosero, the Altocedro, we have a couple questions here. Firstly, from Richard, who are the poets, Karim?
Well, here I have the opportunity to decide which poets or favorite poets put on this collage. So it's Walt Whitman, it's Edgar Allan Poe, it's Jorge Luis Borges, and a guy called William Shakespeare.
I've heard of a couple of them. And why did you pick these poets? Are they favorites of yours, or are you really kind of pulling in your top kind of international selection?
No, I like them very much. I think Borges is the most British one, more than Shakespeare, even more English than Shakespeare. But I love the four are great writers, and this concept of Los Poetas, of La Consulta, Los Poetas from Uco Valley, under this winemaking liberty concept, gave us a completely different platform, winemaking platform, to develop something different than the regular Altocedro portfolio.
Perfect. I have one more question here from Joe, who asks, in terms of the percentages of grapes in the blend, is this something you decide on where after harvest, when the wine is made, or do you have an idea of when you will be, what percentage you will be using before harvesting? Very similar question there coming in about that blend and where you make that decision.
No, it comes every year differently, depending how the vintage came and how the different varietals behave. The Merlot comes from a single vineyard, the Cab comes from a single vineyard, but the Malbec comes from 3 or 4 different vineyards. So sometimes you have more Malbec, sometimes less, and we decided just to keep stylistically the wine vintage after vintage.
Excellent, fabulous. Well, it was showing really nicely. Now we're going to move on to single variety. So in this case, your Altocedro Año Cerro, just to make it tricky for us non-native speakers. Can you tell us a bit about this wine and where it comes from and the concept behind it?
Well, the Altocedro winery has 2 collections, all the Reserva old vine wines that we know very well, but also when we developed the Año Cero collection, under this Año Cero concept of managing the vineyard differently and with a different winemaking protocols, the Malbec was the very first wine that I released in 2001, and the one that allowed us to start using or before registering the La Consulta appellation in 2003, because La Consulta was not recognized as an AVA until we present all the paperwork in 2003 to have the La Consulta recognition, even being a very old growing area on the very south part of the Uco Valley. So all the Año Cero concept started as a varietal collection, and the Malbec is the most complex based on the amount of vineyards from where we source the fruit. Not being allowed to share maps, I brought my maps here, so I will be showing the maps that you already know from Argentina. For all the audience, Mendoza is on the very west part at the foothills of the Andes, right on the border with Chile. And this big desert that is Mendoza has only 4 growing areas, and Uco Valley is this long purple stamp on the southwest from Mendoza City, irrigated mostly by the Tunuyán River. So in Altocedro winery, it will take a few seconds to find the next map. Here you have the La Consulta formation on this map, where you can see the 2 big formations, the alluvial cone coming from the Tunuyán River and the colluvial cone that comes from the south in El Cepillo. But La Consulta, from a different approach, you can see here from east to west, from Buenos Aires to Chile, how many small plots and small corners are very diverse. And for this Malbec specifically, we source the fruit from 7 different vineyards. From the west, close to Altamira, to the east, down to Chacón, from from El Cepillo on the very south, and also from the north in Lotes Barraqueros. So we cover the whole appellation. So we can say that this Año Cero Malbec is a true ambassador of the La Consulta appellation.
Excellent. A true village wine. I think you've obviously really put La Consulta on the map, Karim. You've been, one of the most dedicated winemakers to the region and really elevated it in terms of its knowledge of the region beyond. What for you? We're going to taste after this a Malbec from Los Chacayes. So before we move on, what is for you La Consulta Malbec? How would you compare it to other Malbecs of Argentina? What is the identity that you get from La Consulta in particular?
Well, the beauty of Uco Valley, that you have all these different regions and appellations, Los Chacayes, it's also a very old area. It used to be a big estancia, and Durton family was the pioneer of building the very first winery on this area. But La Consulta, but they did it thanks to the drip irrigation technology. So when you analyze Uco Valley, you have to understand what was already planted before, thanks to the traditional irrigation system, and what came later, thanks to the drip irrigation. So La Consulta, being on the eastern side, but very south, received the first water from the Tunuyán River, and we have a dam there, a distribution dam, that allowed us to have water. So we have all vines and vineyards that were planted in the 19th century. So La Consulta has a classic Malbec character compared with Los Chacayes. It's a little bit lighter sometimes compared with the concentration that you can reach on other areas. For me, the number one thing that makes me feel that I'm tasting Malbec from La Consulta are the floral notes on the nose, the violets, the blue notes, the blue flowers are for me the main characteristics, and always our wines very, very elegant.
Delicious. I think it's showing really nicely as well today, and I agree completely with your description. It's lovely, very floral, very elegant. Even at midday on a hot summer's day in Mendoza, it's really quite refreshing to drink. So perfect. So
we are about to lunch, so compared with the rest of the people with a different time zone, we will be enjoying wine despite the conditions.
Excellent, fabulous. Thank you, Karim. If anyone has any more questions, please do upload them into the question and answer, and we can come back to Karim at the end. One question on the ABV. This one is 14.3, Anna. So super. Let's move on to our last wine with Thibault, and going to Los Chacayes again. And what I'd like you to tell us about, Thibault, is your kind of new project working in agroforestry, which I think is a really fascinating kind of return to the past development in terms of planting trees in vineyards and looking at polyculture. Can you tell us what is agroforestry and how are you implementing it in the winery?
Well, Benoit told a little bit about the agroforestry, and I also think that it's the future of the viticulture. In our side, we are planting 50 to 80 trees per hectares in 10 hectares, not in the whole estate, but we have selected 2 plots to make this experiment. And the aim of this work is to protect the vineyard from all the climatic change, climatic variations, I would say. We have a very strong wind here, which is called sonda, very dry and warm. So this wind is very damages a lot of the estate. So putting some trees inside the estate, it helps us to preserve a better climate inside the vineyard. And also the one point which is not always mentioned, but which for me is very important, is that all these trees are connecting the vines through the fungus. I mean, in the soil you have some mycorrhiza, which is a fungus, and this fungus is very useful for the vineyard, because a root in a soil which has fungus can triple its root exploration area. And it's now proved that the fungus, the family of fungus that interest us are the endomycorrhizae. They provide some phosphor to the plants, because the phosphor is an element that doesn't move in the soil. It's very stable. So the fungus can go deeper, can go in a very thinner part than the roots cannot go. So it gives phosphor to the plants. It gives also water. So if you think that Argentina is a desert, when we have to be very careful with the water, using a more rich soil in fungus would help us to use less water, and also nitrogen. When we started this project of agroforestry, I started to study the trees, the native tree that we have in Argentina, and I discovered that most of them are Fabaceae, leguminous. I mean, they fix the nitrogen from the air. The Chañares, Algarrobo, Sinacina, all these trees fix the nitrogen from the air, so it helps us to increase the amount of nitrogen in our soils. But the main reason why we are doing that, this agroforestry system, is to make a more resilient vineyard that would resist better to the climatic conditions, extreme climatic conditions. I mean, this year, I don't know, Karim, but I think that we had maybe 15 sonda. We had a lot of sonda this year, many strong winds. And it helped us to take to withdraw more nutrients and water in our soil. So we also do no tilling at all, and we don't touch our soils in order to preserve this microbial fungus and bacteria. Sorry. And we do a study of all the native plants that we have in our estates, and we have more than 150, maybe 200. We did 4 days looking for relevamiento. Well, I don't know how to say that, but searching them, and we found more than 150. But I really think that the agroforestry, we are experimenting 4 different ways of planting the trees. One of them is an entire row of tree. The second one is isolated trees in the plots with a distance of 8 to 10 meters between all of them, each of them. And the third one is a mass, something creating a kind of little wood inside the estate, the plot. And we also put some fruit trees on the trellis, on the row, pruned as if it was a vine inside the plot. So that's what we're experiencing since only 3 years now. It's quite new, but I visited a lot of estates in France, and I think the results are very significant.
I think it's very exciting, the agroforestry movement, and looking back at the ways that vineyards were planted a long time ago with, little forests, with fruit trees, it was all polyculture. So it's very interesting to kind of move back to that. And it would be very interesting to see the results in terms of sustainability, water, but also biodiversity and how that impacts the wine. Are there any ways in which you think those native trees express themselves, that biodiversity you get in the vineyard? Do you see that come through in the wine at all?
Yeah. Most of the trees maybe not, but the bushes in Mendoza are very aromatic. Everybody knows the Jarilla, but you have 4 types of Jarilla, which we planted also in the estate. You have the Paleo, for example, which is very aromatic, and we do a vermouth, and we took some Paleo to put in our vermouth. You have a lot of bushes that are very, very aromatic, and when you leave the bushes grows inside your estate with no mowing, only mowing in the middle. You can smell the taste of all these plants. That's true.
Absolutely, and I think this is a wine is a really nice expression of that, because I think it does have that nuance of the harilla, which is this native kind of bush herb, but it's also got that lovely kind of density of the fruit, but it's got a lot of spices and herbs and floral lift as well. Tell us a little bit about this wine, because you have Malbec and Cot. What are the difference between Malbec and Cot, and what do they each bring to this wine?
Malbec and Cot, when François came to Argentina, the Malbec was not that famous at that time. I mean, it came at the beginning of the 90s. So he found that the Malbec was a very great wine, but he brought some Malbec from France. And France, it's called Cot. It's called Cot because when the Malbec arrived to Argentina 150 years ago, France, we suffered phylloxera crisis. So we replanted all our vineyard with a very few individuals, very few plants that survived this crisis. And we did a selection of Malbec at the beginning of the 20th century with these individuals, and the expression of the Cot is more, for me, it has more acidity, it's fresher, but it's more rustic. It doesn't have the very soft and gentle tannins of the Argentinian Malbec. So we always do the Cot as a aromatic compound of the blend. It's like a Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay. Going back to, if you put 20% of Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay to give a little bit of freshness and aromatical expression. We don't always use more than 20-25% of Cot, but we always use a little bit of it because it's very fresh, very tense. It used to be rustic, but we found a way to do the vinification in order to tame all this rustic expression. And one of the ways is to make a no sulfite vinification. I mean, you know that the sulfite is a solvent at the temperature, the alcohol, the mechanical extraction. The sulfite is also a solvent. And when you do a vinification without any sulfite, during all the vinification, you are extracting less, and you are it's easier to pilot the extraction of the red grapes. And as Karim said, we have differences between the La Consulta and Los Chacayes. What we have I think La Consulta is more elegant. They have a very elegant tannins and mouth. In Chacayes, we sometimes have more rusticity, and we really have to be careful with extraction to tame this rusticity and to have an elegant wine in Chacayes.
Absolutely. I think Chacayes is a more powerful cru, but I think you manage this really nicely. It's got lovely balance. It's definitely a wine that you could lay down for 10, 15, 20 years, but I'm going to enjoy it tonight, probably with some burgers. We've got two questions here. So I've got one question from John asking, does the agroforestry management prevent you from mechanizing the vineyards? Does it make mechanization more difficult having those trees in the vineyards?
Yeah, that's why we are trying, we are making an experiment with different modalities. I think the most convenient is to have a whole row only of only trees. Then you have to prune the trees. There is a prune, I don't know in English the name, but it's a trogne, like making a hand every year. You just prune it at the back to the, cut everything. And others, the root system will remain the same every year. It will grow and give you all the shadow and the freshness that you need, but you have to go back to no branches at all every year. But the most convenient, the easiest way to make agroforestry is to have a row of only trees every 15 rows of vines. That's what was in Maipú, for example. Maipú, they have some olive trees every 10 rows. So it's proved that in 40 meters between the trees row, all the roots are getting connected. More than 40 meters, the roots sometimes don't get connected. So you have to leave no more than 40 meters between the trees rows.
Excellent, brilliant data. John says that pruning is called pollarding in English. And then one last question here from Holly. So making your sulfite-free cot that you're adding to the blend, does it affect the viticulture? Do you have to harvest at a different time, perhaps earlier, when you're making sulfite-free wine? Yes, earlier, because the acidity is a component of the balance of the wine that help you to give time, to give aging potential to the wine. So when we do a no sulfite wine, you have to have a lower pH and a higher acidity. That's true. Super. Excellent. What a great tasting, gentlemen. Thank you very much. We have a couple minutes left. If anyone has any questions that you would like to add, and I'm sure we can ask Aaron to email out Karim's maps in case anyone wanted to get a closer look at that after the tasting. But what an absolute pleasure to be tasting these wines today. Thank you for making my Thursday a lot more interesting. And thank you for all your interesting initiatives in sustainability. I think it's been great to kind of see how you're working in the vineyard, the winery, and really trying to make a difference through your winemaking. So thank you very much for all your sharing of those experiences with us.
Thanks to all of you. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I've been really, really absorbed with all the discussion going on, and you always learn something new. I mean, the wine world is just infinitely fascinating. There's always something new that you haven't heard about before, and I've certainly heard a number of things today. Thanks again, Amanda, very much for hosting that, and thanks very much to our winemakers and speakers today, and for the wines, of course, which is the main reason why people have joined us today, of course, isn't it? And again, thanks everyone who joined us for the tasting. As Amanda was saying, if there were any resources used today or anything you thought was interesting, you'd like more, I can share Karim's maps. I do have copies of those. I've got electronic versions. We have all the tech details of the wines that you tasted today as well. If you want to go ahead and take those things yourself, you can via the Condor Wines website, but otherwise I'd be happy to provide those. If you just drop me an email, that's no problem at all. We've also recorded this session, so if you'd like the recording, well, actually, I think we send the recording out as a sort of like a default anyway, so that will be available to you if you would like it. And it remains to say, thanks very much, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us, and thanks very much to our speakers today and to Amanda for hosting. Fantastic session. Good stuff.
And cheers to the 24 harvest. Salud.
Salud.
Salud, salud.
Cheers.